Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from AAC Clyde Space. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you are interested in scheduling a meeting with AAC Clyde Space, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You will be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Luis Gomez, Chief Executive Officer of AAC Clyde Space, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol ACCMF and on the Nasdaq Stockholm under the symbol AACM. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. AAC Clyde Space is a company that operates in the space market. So we are a manufacturer of components, we are a manufacturer of satellites, and we sell services and data from space assets. And this is a market that has been growing very rapidly over the last few years. We have been seeing increased demand for data, for information, to help us manage our lives on Earth. And that has translated into a demand for more satellites, more equipment to be in orbit, more instruments. And the sector itself is growing very quickly. So what we see is that we now expect the sector by 2040 to be worth about $1 trillion. And this is an increase from 2021 when we were still at about $386 million. Or billion dollars, sorry. So what we are seeing is this exponential growth that is very much fueled by the need to support activities on Earth. So we sometimes don't realize, but we are very dependent on space to provide us information, to manage our crops around the world, to manage our weather, communication, something that we are usually quite familiar with, and satellite navigation. But there are many other applications that we usually don't realize rely on space assets. And as we face many challenges on Earth with climate change, with food shortages, we are seeing that there is more demand and more needs to actually have extra data to help our farmers, to help our climatologists, but also to help emergency services to manage the threats that we all face on the day-to-day basis. And what this is doing is requiring more data from space, not just more data, but also more timely data. And for that, we need more satellites. We need more satellites in orbit, collecting data, and we need to be able to download that data quickly and efficiently. And this is where companies like AAC Clyde Space come in. Over the last 20 years, we have developed many applications, many technologies to efficiently and in a cost-effective way manufacture satellites. The big revolution that we see nowadays on the space industry, on the satellite industry, is that we are now able to actually make satellites much more affordable. So what used to be a very expensive, very difficult to access domain is now something that we can do at a much more cost-effective way. And because of that, we can make more satellites, we can have much better coverage of the globe. And that comes down to the ability to actually produce satellites, to launch them, and then to operate them in a cost-effective manner. So we started some of our companies, so we are a group of companies, some of them started in the 1990s, but the bulk of our group started in the mid-2000s. And we started, like the majority of space companies, as a provider of components and subsystems for the space industry. Over time, we evolved into building our own satellites using the technology and the IP that we had been developing in-house to help us to actually build satellites for space. And from there, we started evolving into being able to not just selling the satellites to someone else, but to actually start owning our own satellites. We now own 4 satellites in orbit. We've got another 8 to launch over the next year. And those are providing data to customers around the world. And we see that the provision of data as being an engine for growth. So if you see on this slide on the bottom left, you have the current makeup of the business. It's still very much about selling components. We do part of our money of selling satellites, but we are starting to make part of our sales in space data as a service. And that is something that we expect to grow, as we shall see a bit later. So currently, over the last year, over the last 12 months, our revenue, our net sales are about 198 million Swedish krona. That is about $20 million. But we have an order backlog of 481 million Swedish krona. So showing that this is a market that has been growing substantially and very healthy over the last year or so. We are about 180 people worldwide. We are present in 5 different countries, 6 companies in 5 different countries, 3 continents. And currently, over the years, we have built about 29 satellites. As I said, of these ones, some are for ourselves, others we have sold as turnkey missions to our customers. The organization of the group is very much follows the organization of our business model. So we've got companies that are very much focused on producing components and subsystems, batteries, onboard computers, all sorts of avionics that are then used that we sell to the market, but we also use on our own satellites. So these systems are then used to make satellites, some of which we sell to our customers as turnkey missions, others we keep and we use to provide data that our customers will then use for generating their own information and generate their own information products. So we have companies in the Netherlands, in Sweden, in the UK, South Africa, and in the United States. In terms of our unique capabilities and what we have developed, we follow very much from the different capabilities that we built in our companies. So we have specialisms in weather and climate. So we have a company that develops some of the world's best microwave sounders for investigating the atmosphere, measuring temperature and moisture content. These are key quantities to predict weather, to forecast our weather. We are working on maritime and energy domains, supplying information for tracking ships. This is something that we have done for many years. So the satellites we own in the US generate that kind of information. And we are one of the first companies to develop a VDS system. That is a VHF data exchange system. That is the next generation of ship tracking, but that will also allow communication with ships. And in general, we have quite a lot of in-house technology. So if you look at our different companies, they all have developed products, end-to-end capability in terms of developing a satellite. So we can design everything in-house, we can produce in-house, and that gives us quite a lot of flexibility in meeting the needs of the market. So we can adapt our satellite design, our products, to meet what the market needs. So we can we can re-engineer our satellites, our designs, to adapt to what people desire from space. And that has led us to actually invest in specific areas of the business. And now just to give you a little feel for the last quarter. So we came from the end of the pandemic years, the last 2 years, with suffering from the same the same issues that most of the high technology industry was suffering. So we had issues with shortages of components. We have had issues with suppliers that stopped production for periods because they had too many people with COVID, and so they had to close the production for a few weeks, if not in some cases some months. So all those problems over the years have affected our performance. But what we have seen over this last quarter is that things are starting to stabilize, and we have seen quite an increase in activity from customers. So asking us for more proposals, asking us for more requests for prices, and we are seeing an increase, particularly in the domain of the components and subsystems, that the market is picking up again. But of course, we have accumulated a few delays. The delays on equipment and delays on supply of subsystems and components were then followed by having to change launches and by some delays on launches. So we are currently waiting to launch 3 satellites. They should have been launched earlier in the year. They're being launched now. So we see an improving context and an improving business, but nevertheless we are not where we wanted to be. We have nevertheless improved our net sales. They have increased by about 36% year on year. We expect it to have them even a bit higher. And we did not meet our objective of being EBITDA and operational cash flow positive in 2022 because of those delays. We have now moved that objective into next year. But as I said, this was a quarter that actually we saw an improvement of the market, and our order backlog has even grown over this last quarter. And since the end of the quarter, we continued this dynamic of getting new business, and we are seeing an improving scenario, an improving environment for our business. So in terms of launch, we currently, as I said, we have three spacecraft to launch. One is waiting in Cornwall in the UK, waiting for the first Virgin Orbit launch from the UK. This is a satellite that we designed for the Satellite Applications Catapult and for Horizon Technologies. It will focus on tracking illegal shipping. And then we have 2 others that are now in Cape Canaveral, waiting to be launched on a Falcon 9. So quite a lot of activity towards the end of the year. And actually, also a few weeks ago, one of the satellites that we participated in Sweden was launched. The MAT satellite was launched from New Zealand. And that has been very successful. So we are having quite a busy end of the year period, and that will continue actually on to the start of 2023. And in terms of recent contracts, as I said, we have seen a distinct pickup of the market over the last few months, particularly on components and subsystems. And we are seeing now that many customers that we have worked with before, that we have worked throughout their initial demonstration phases, they are now coming to us with recurring orders, with new orders for the same subsystems, and we are seeing the development of the market again into constellations, into more people interested in growing their current assets, and that is good for us because we sell more subsystems. So just a few highlights: we are working with Astroscale on their next mission to demonstrate debris removal from space. We have further contracts with OHB Sweden for the InnoSat platform, something that we are very happy, because this is the MAT satellite that was launched is a demonstration of the quality of that platform. So we have more of those coming. We have a customer that is now coming to us for 25 power systems for their constellation, and we continue to have several other work in constellation and subsystems. And also we we entered into an agreement with for the next phase of our expansion project with the European Space Agency and the UK Space Agency. And so it has been a quarter that has been where, as I say, we see that the market is gaining some is growing again and is gaining in confidence again. Of course, looking forward, where we are going as a company, we are very much working on the global trends. As I said, there is a lot of interest in connectivity. There is a lot of interest in sustainability, and in tracking of ships, in monitoring of the oceans. So we are very much working on all of these areas, and either with customers. So, for instance, if you look at the work we are doing with some of our customers on IoT, or directly by having our own satellites. So in AIS, we are for tracking shipping. We are actually working with Orbcom. We already provide them data, and we will be providing even more data to them to do that. We are developing the VDES work, the VDES subsystem, the VDES satellite with Saab and Orbcom. So we are working on many of those technologies. We are working on hyperspectral imaging systems that will help farmers around the world to monitor their crops, and they will help people that manage forests to manage forests. So we are working in many of these things, and these are driving the growth of the industry. And as such, we have set ourselves in our strategy about a year ago. We set ourselves three main areas of work. So we are farming and forestry. There we see this is a big market. It's growing very fast. There is plenty of demand for information to support farmers and managers of forests, and we see that growing quite substantially. And our technology, the fact that we can manufacture satellites of high quality at low cost, mean that we can actually offer a product to the market that is very competitive. So we are working with a Canadian company on these, but our objective in the future is to provide a service around these. So we are building our own satellites. We currently are building 3 for this purpose, but we see that constellation growing in the future to provide more data to this sector. On the maritime and energy, as I said, we have been working for many years on AIS to track ships. And now we are taking the jump to actually start providing VDES services for the next generation of maritime domain management. And we are doing that through our work with Saab and Orbcom. So we expect to have the first satellite next year to deliver VDES to demonstrate the service, and then from then on build a constellation of 12 satellites afterwards. To actually start offering an operational service in time for the expected introduction of VDES as a mandatory system in 25-26. And then through our work with ESA, the European Space Agency, and OHB, Sweden, we are working on climate. And the objective there, we are delivering a satellite, the Arctic Weather satellite that will be launched, is expected to be launched in 2024, and that will offer a new ability for us to predict weather, to forecast weather much more accurately than we are doing now. And the long-term objective there is to actually provide a constellation of satellites that will help forecasters to have much more accurate weather data, and so they can predict weather much more accurately. And so we are working on that with our partners, and we want to grow that system in the future. So these are the 3 main areas that we are investing, that we are actually putting our time to, and they follow, as I said before, on the strengths of our group. So we are not trying to do something that is completely new to us. No, this is growing on the strength that we've got within the group, the technology, the knowledge that we have accumulated over these many years of building and operating satellites and systems in space. And as I said, we see a growth in the space data as a service. We see a growth in providing more subsystems, more components, more satellites over the next few years. And we see a very healthy future for our industry and for the company. So our baseline, our underlying growth, just by continuing to do the hardware, what I call the hardware business, that is building components and subsystems and satellites, is healthy in itself. But then we see a great opportunity by adding the services. And over the last 2 years, we have developed many internal projects to improve our system, our data and services provision. So we are working on that with the acquisition of SpaceQuest in the US, but also by developing new products based on the data we already have and the data that we will have. We will be able to address that market much better. So we see a great opportunity to grow our future market, our market share, by growing into the services and data. And in that way, enabling people that normally would not use space data in their business, but that they need that data, but they think that they don't want to own satellites, they don't want to have to deal with ground stations and assets in space. But the way, by us providing them a service just with the data they need, just the service they need, they can actually benefit from that data, benefit from that information without having to actually becoming a space asset operator. We can do that for them. And in this way, we can attract a whole new range of users and customers to our sector. So just as key takeaways, just as a summary, so we are a company that operates in the space domain. We have a long experience and a long tradition of delivering missions into space, operating them. And we have built a competence and a range of technical abilities that allow us now to actually face the future with confidence, and also with the desire to actually grow the company into the services and the data sector. So we have the capability, we have the ability, and so we are starting to offer those services to customers. And our objective is to become a world leader in data and services from space. Not just hardware, where we already are quite successful, but in data and services, providing the information people need, making space more affordable and more accessible to everyone. So thank you. Thank you for your time. I see that we've got a few questions. I will now answer a few questions. So there is a question on, can you outline your anticipated time frame and network scaling of your constellations? So we are in that process right now. As I say, we've got 4 satellites on our own constellation in orbit. We've got another 8 to launch until the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. Our objective is then to launch another 12 after that, up until 2025. So we see an opportunity to actually grow our constellation quite quickly. Of course, we balance that with the investment, but also with the demand on the market. But that is the speed at which we want to grow. And we see up to 2023 an opportunity to then double the size until 2030, an opportunity to double that constellation, because we believe the market is developing in that way. There is a question, can you speak to your sales channels and resources? So we have our own channels for sales. So we actually have our own teams. That is a global network of sales. We have partners around the world for some specific markets where we operate through partners. And then we have specialists particularly in the data and services. We have partners that actually are the specialists in the market, and so they actually deliver the data to the end users. So we do a mixture of sales channels depending very much on the type of market. We see opportunities in the future to go direct to consumer in some areas, but in general, we prefer to work with specialists in that market. And so we prefer to deliver them bulk in terms of data, deliver data, bulk data that then they will distribute to the end users. But of course, it depends on the end users. If we are talking about large organizations, large corporations, we will be dealing directly with them. There is another question on, can you discuss how you are positioned to participate in the growth of space data as a service? So as I mentioned, we have been doing quite a lot of work over the last 2 years, not only in developing the constellations. So we've got satellites already active. We've got another 8 to join in the next year or so. But at the same time, in parallel, we have been developing services around the use of that data. So, for instance, we have started to engage with energy sector. There are certain activities that we do that will support their activities, and so we are engaging with that, developing those channels, developing those competencies. But also, for instance, we are starting to use the historical data we already have to extract information, to actually build products that then the market can use. So we are starting to develop that. On the other hand, like I said before, we work with partners, with specialist partners that then use that data, process the data, and make it available to the end users. So it's a mixture of different ways, but we are pursuing different avenues depending on the types of markets. There was a question of, do you count the investment community as a key market? Yes, in 2 ways. So we do interact with investors on a daily basis as a listed company, but also there are investors in specific information markets, and we have been dealing with a few that need specific information to help them in their investment decisions, and that is an area that we see a great opportunity for growth in the future, and we are pursuing, and we are engaging, and we are dealing with them right now. And I believe these are the questions. I don't believe there are any more questions. If there are any questions, if not, I'll end here. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and have a happy New Year if I don't see you until the New Year, and a great